What's up, guys? I am back again for another life lesson video. This series that I started last week, I now have 4 videos. I think this is 5. I think this is a 5th video. Is going to be an ongoing thing. If you watch any other of my videos, like and subscribe and do all that stuff that YouTube always tells you to do. Because going forward, I'm going to have topic matter that will cover just about every aspect of life. Decisions is probably the biggest topic that I want to talk about, but I don't want to ramble on and on. There's actually 3 different topics I want to talk about today. One of them was health. Getting back to my heart attack video, if you look inside my channel, you'll find my first video about my heart attack podcast, 45 minutes long. Sorry about that. I want to talk about health. I wanted to talk about showing off material things, stuff that doesn't matter at the end. And I covered that on my second video, the 5 lessons that I wish I knew when I was 20. That's also, you can go down to my channel and find that one. And then there was a third topic I don't remember, but I'm going to stick on, I'm going to do a deep dive on one of these topics that I covered on that video, the 5 things I wish I knew when I was younger. Decision making. This video, what I'm going to tell you is a lot of bad decisions that I made in my life and a couple of good ones. A couple of really good ones, but a lot of bad ones when I was teenager all the way up to, well, probably 5 years ago. These decisions, oh, by the way, yes, I'm an Army veteran, and yes, that's going to be one of my decisions. I don't have to, like blast it all over the place. So I'm going to turn my head around so you don't have to look at all the pomp and circumstance. So, yeah, I'm very proud of that, actually. That's probably one of the best decisions I didn't know I made. There were a lot of decisions, as I said, when I was a teenager. So without going through my whole life story, I'm going to hyphenate it the best I can. I was getting in trouble when I was 14 years old. My mom was a single mom, raising 2 kids, and she did the best she could, so she says, under the circumstances, but she wasn't really doing the best she could because her attention was diverted a lot. So I got into some trouble, and I don't know if that was a way for me, to, yell out to her in a negative way. Whatever the case was, she kind of washed her hands of me. I ended up spending a couple of stints in juvenile hall, yes, as a teenager. And eventually I ended up with my dad, who was not in my life for at that point, a good part of probably 6 or 7 years. They had divorced. And then my dad and I separated by his decision, not mine. He said, "You're on your own." I'm 16 years old. Wasn't my decision, it was his. And then I kind of hoofed it and did what I could and hustled and all that stuff on the street. For a while. At 17, I did not like it. At 17, I knew I could join the military, but I would still need a parent to sign off on it. I turned 17 in September, on the 4th of September. On October 9th, I raised my hand. Like, that's how quick. Like, literally, my mom was nice enough to sign off on that. The reason that I joined, you could say patriotic and this and that, blah, 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 because I grew up during the Vietnam era, and yeah, there was a certain amount of patriotism that was involved, but mainly I wanted off the street. Mainly I wanted my high school diploma, my GED, as it were, because I had dropped out of school at 10th grade. That was a decision, that was a positive decision that I never knew I made. What I say by that is, at 17, 18 years old, you can't think of your future. You can't think of me at 64 right now. I couldn't. I could not anticipate that I would be an old man one day, that I would even be around. But the reason that was smart for me to do, regardless and despite that I didn't really get along in the military, it wasn't for me. But fast forward to the future, about 6 years ago, I signed up with the VA. I'd gone through the last 40 years, not even looking back. About 6 years ago, through a lot of pushing and prodding from people I knew, I begrudgingly went to the VA and signed up there, and I was approved. And that through that approval, I have health care for life. I have a lot of benefits through the VA that I appreciate. The least of which, I get to board the flight. You know, like anywhere I travel, I'm usually ushered in after all the disabled people and people with kids. Then veterans are next, and I appreciate that too. But the main thing is, getting back to my video about the heart attack, that heart attack cost me I just got the bill the other day. Well, it was a lot of bills. It was like 8 or 9 different envelopes, you know, like highlighting all the different procedures and all that stuff. From Emory University, which, anyway, it's complicated, but anyway, I got all the pages. $64,000. $64,000 question. Can I pay this? Hell no, I can't pay this, but I didn't have to. So even though I got a bill, there's nothing owed. 64 grand. That would otherwise, you know, be my checks going off into the mail to cover that. How could I know that at 17? That I would need that one day? Because I don't know how I would have managed. I didn't have health insurance. Like, I don't have that. So, that being said, not staying in the Army was a bad decision. Because, again, you know, 17, 18, 19, 20, I'm out at 20. I'm out of the Army at 20 when most people are joining. Just a little shy of my 21st birthday. I couldn't even drink. When I got out and went back to California, I couldn't even drink. Legally. I mean, I don't drink, but I couldn't go into a bar. I wasn't 21. Which is kind of weird. I can give my life for my country, but I can't go into a bar. Very weird. That I got out had a lot to do with my attitude toward authority. Same as it was with my mom, same as it was with, you know, a lot of stuff in my teenage years. I just felt like I was smarter than these other people that were above me. And in many ways I probably was, but it was a pushback that I had no right to do. Like, the pushback was dumb for me to think, you know, that I was arrogant enough at 18, 19, 20 years old to think that I had all the answers, and I clearly did not. And I was offered to get re-upped, you know, like, no, I don't want to be a lifer. What they call lifer is, you know, 20 years, and yeah, you know, you devote your whole life to the military, and then when you get out, you're lost because you've been out of civilian life for so long, you don't even know how to navigate life. Had I stayed in, and this is what really bothers me now. Had I stayed in, I would have been retired in 1998. I would have been 37 and retired in 1998. I would have easily had a second career, and that kind of ties into my other video, the five things I wish I knew when I was 20, where I talked about career choices and decisions that you make and all that stuff, and how you could have 3 careers plus SSI at the end of your life. Think about that, right? So, you know, I'm doing my 20 to 40 in the Army. I'm doing somewhere else at some other company from 40 to 60, and then I have my SSI. So there's 2 careers in SSI, and any savings that I could have done, which ties back to my other video. Anyway, moving forward, I get out and I get stuck in that security conundrum, because what do you do when you come out of the Army infantry? What do you do? So I got stuck in security at a hotel. That was one of my first jobs I had when I got out. It was a Sheraton Corporation. It was a Sheraton Universal in Studio City, California. and I was a security guard. And it was funny too, because I was like 20, 21 years old, and I had to wear, you know, not a suit, but I had to wear a shirt and tie and a blazer and the gray slacks and everything. And I thought I was it. I didn't start that way at that job. I was a parking attendant, and within a couple of months, supervisor promoted me to security. And I should have stayed with the Sheraton. That I didn't stay in the Army for 20 years, my bad. But then I made the wrong choice in getting out of working for the Sheraton, because the Sheraton Corporation, I could have retired easily in 20 years and, you know, been set. I would have been a manager of some hotel somewhere, or possibly in the corporate entity of Sheraton. So that was a stupid decision. All these stupid decisions that I made. And I got stuck in this security rut. I worked for Wells Fargo at one point. I worked for different companies doing security work, because I didn't know what I wanted to do when I grew up. And then I chose not money, because money wasn't my motivator. Job satisfaction was my motivator. What do I like? I like helping people. And so I chose the fire service. Of all the jobs out there, the fire service, because they get to help people. My hero, my comic hero, was Mighty Mouse. Here I come to save the day, you know, and that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to help people. I wanted to save lives. I wanted to do all that stuff. And I went through the fire academy, and I eventually landed a job in a very small department outside of Santa Barbara. When I say small department, you couldn't got. So the ranking, the way it works in the fire department, you're firefighter first, basic firefighter. You kind of move up that rung of the ladder, as it were, a little bit until you hit engineer. Engineer is the pumper, the person who controls all those complicated dials and levers on an apparatus truck, on a fire truck. From engineer, you move up from there, and you know, there are different ranks, just like there is in the military. And you could be chief, you could be battalion chief, you could move way up, you could, you know, retire in 20 years. A lot of them don't, because they love the job so much that they wait for 30 years or longer. I got out of it after about 5 years because I saw I wasn't going to get anywhere. And I wanted to follow my dream. At the time, I wanted to backpack Europe. And because I wasn't getting anywhere, and because I was testing like a maniac all through California, all the way from San Diego to San Jose, I was putting in applications and doing testing. If you don't know, there's 4 or 5 different test levels that you have to go through to get a job as a firefighter, and one of them is a written test, and you get called back if you pass that to physical agility. Then you get called back for an oral. Then you get called back, in my case, for a Spanish oral. In San Jose, I wanted that job so bad, but I could not pass the Spanish oral. So, you know, after some time of doing that, I'm like, you know what? I'm not going to get anywhere with this. I was 26 years old. I'm not going to get anywhere with this. Let me just leave and go to Europe and go backpack. Dumb decision. Such a stupid decision that I made, even at 26. I'm like, again, I could have been retired already, a long time ago. Just dumb. So I backpacked Europe in a roundabout way, without going into the details. I ended up here in Georgia, where my sister was currently living at the time. And then I kind of plunked around. I still had that yearning to help people. I joined the Red Cross. I was with the Red Cross for about 4 or 5 years. Went on disasters and fires and all that stuff, and got to give out free money through vouchers to Walmart and different charitable type of places. So I wasn't there during the fire. I was there afterward, and I get to give out somebody else's money and, you know, like help people out, drive them around and stuff like that. So that was nice. But I got stuck into the apartment industry at that point. And I excelled in the apartment industry. I went I jumped around to different companies. One of the best ones here was Lane Company, and I should have stayed with them as well. I always feel like there's something better around the corner. You know, it's just that weird drive that you have to better yourself when you're in reality not bettering yourself. You're downgrading yourself because of those life decisions that you make. Remember I said on that other video, Every decision you make, every turn in the road, every fork in the road, every road less traveled that you think you need to go down has a repercussion later on in life. So, once again, wrong decision. Meaning that with that company, I could have retired too. So I had 3 possibilities of retirement, and I blew them all away. Now I'm into my 30s. And at a certain point, I'm like, I need to leave my DNA on this planet somehow, some way. I wanted a family. Oh, and I have bad decisions about relationships too. Actually, when I had moved here, I had gotten engaged to this young girl. Well, we were about the same age at the time, who had everything together. She had been to college, she had a job, she had settled in, she had bought her own condo, financed her own condo, financed her own car. Like, she was set the way I should have been set. And I latched on to her with the idea that I was going to marry her, but she couldn't have kids. And that was a big deal to me. We could have adopted at some point. Anyway, bad decision in relationships, as it were. Half a dozen at least. In my lifetime, I made bad decisions on relationships because of my whimsical way of thinking. Because I'm not thinking far enough ahead. Because I'm thinking the priorities were not in order. You got to think those things through really hard. Not only that, but you have to advise with other people. Advise with elders. Advise with your mom, your dad, grandfather, grandmother. Like, that's what I suggest. If nothing comes from this at all, advise. Talk to older people. Even somebody on the street or at the mall or at Walmart or something like that. Hey, can I ask you a couple questions? Old people are so interested in sharing their experiences in life. I mean, some won't, but for the most part, you can get a lot of advice from people who have walked that road already, who have made bad decisions like myself. I tell people all the time when I see them in uniform, as bad as it gets, stay in, do your 20 years. Oh, this is my second year. Yeah, second year? Yeah, do 18 more. Don't worry about the BS. Like, just suck it up. Like, I tell people that. I just solicit people and give them advice. But I'm saying to you, make sure you get opinions and advice from other people. So I wanted to spread my DNA, and I got married to the wrong woman. At the time, I thought she respected me, and that she loved me, and that till death do you part meant something on both sides. Eventually it didn't. Eventually she got a little uppity. It's a long story, as everyone is. I was married for nearly 25 years and had planned on being married for the next 25 years. But 2 people have to agree. And if one person walks away, then there's nothing you can do. Was I in love with her? No. But I didn't marry her for the love. I married her for the wrong reason. I married her because I wanted a family, and she was the best at that point in my life that came along. There was nothing wrong with her. Like, somebody else could have married her and had a grand old time. But after, I think, the 4th or 5th year into the marriage, it just wasn't going to go anywhere. But by that time, I had a kid, so I couldn't go anywhere because my priority was my son. So I had to serve my sentence, no matter what. But I married her for the wrong reason. So let me tell you this. If you're young, if you're watching this in your 20s or even your 30s, and you're contemplating getting married, make sure it's your best friend. Make sure that you never have to have a passcode on your phone, a passcode on your laptop. Nothing. Nothing is off the table, and vice versa. You should know each other so well that you can almost finish each other's sentence. If you marry your best friend, you have the best life partner you could ever have. And I didn't marry my best friend. Some of my friends knew more about me than my wife. So yeah, wrong decision again. Marrying the person that I married. Going forward, again, and getting into this apartment maintenance conundrum, not staying with that company that I should have stayed with for 20 years. I bounced around to different management companies, and I got to the point where I was maintenance supervisor at some properties and stuff like that, and I was burnt out I wasn't burnt out as far as workload. I was just burnt out on knowledge. Like, I wasn't learning anything new. I knew about pools. I knew about HVAC. I knew about this and that and everything else. So I just left. I just left the apartment industry altogether and then hoofed it out on my own. And I was Bob's Home Repair at the time, which eventually got into Star Tile. Starting my own business seemed the way to go at that point. And that was a smart decision. But it wasn't a smart decision to save for myself. I have a long history of traveling. You know, despite that I was married, I was still traveling. I was still spending money like I had it coming, which I did have coming, but I was saving nothing for myself. I was doing nothing for my family as far as retirement, as far as the future. With my son, I did. That's a whole different story, because I wanted to send him to college. So I did have a plan for that, but it didn't feather out because he decided not to go, which is a whole different story and a whole different video. But the bottom line is, you know, I was relatively successful with my business, and you know, I've done well for myself enough to not worry at this point financially. But I could have done better. And I guess the point that I'm trying to make is, don't make willy-nilly decisions. Think things through thoroughly in your life. Think them again, and think them a third time and a fourth time, and do what you can to vet yourself and your decision making. You know, get opinions and advice from other people a lot, and think through your decisions. How will this affect me in 20 years? How will this affect me? This decision, how will it affect me in 40 years? Know that you're going to be my age or older one day. Keep that in mind when you make decisions, because it's going to catch up to you, and it catches up to you so fast, and you can't go back. As I've always said on my other videos, there's no do-over button in life. Once you've made that decision, once you've gone down that path, that's it. You have to live with the repercussions. So, man, if I could go back, I would be so... If I stayed in the Army for 20 years and then got out and had a second... Oh my God. I wouldn't be rich, but I would be well off. And those positive decisions most likely would have led me into more positive decisions, like the marriage and, like, you know, career goals and life goals and all that stuff, and saving, etc., etc. So everything ties in together. Everything. You think this one little decision doesn't really matter, but it does, because it affects 4 or 5 other aspects of your life. Think long and hard about every decision you make, please. I beg of you, because don't follow... you know, your heart and your head are 2 different things. And some people, when they go out and buy a car or house or something, you know, they get fixated and fascinated by, you know, the exterior stuff without looking deeper, without checking out the engine, without checking out if there's oil leaks going on. You know, they just see the pretty thing in front of them. And I think, not to be not negative vibe toward women, but women are worse. Like, they just see the pretty thing in front of them. Even when we got our first house, there was no way she was going to move into that house the way it was. I spent six weeks straight every day, 8, 10, 12 hours a day renovating that house before she would even walk through the door, because it didn't look that nice, but it was awesome when I finished it. Another smart decision that I made is getting that house fixed up for the next person. Never intending it to be my death house. Never. It was an investment. And when I sold that house, we walked away, it was only 2 years later, we walked away with $65,000 in equity because of the work that I put into it. Smart decision. I got $40,000 of that. She got $25,000 of that, because I had put in all the work, the sweat equity, and all the money and all that stuff to make it happen. So we had agreed to that when we sold off the house. Another whole story I'll get into at a certain point. Very, very smart decision. Can't go wrong with real estate. Anyway, that's about it. I'm trying to hyphenate these videos down to less than 30 minutes. I think I've yeah. The next video, I'm not sure the subject matter, as I said before. If you have any ideas for another video, put it in the comment section, and I will be happy to entertain any ideas that you have. I have a bunch, but if there's something you want to hear, a topic that I can speak on, as long as it has nothing to do with drugs, because I've never done any, well, ish, and it doesn't have anything to do with crypto or investing, because I have very little to no knowledge on that stuff. But other than that, I'm wide open. Put in the comment section what you want to hear about, and make sure you subscribe. It doesn't cost you a dime. Just hit that button. It helps me, helps the algorithm, and put a like on there too while you're at it. Anyway, next time, thanks guys for watching.